Hello and welcome to the Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host, Meet Paul, and we've actually got goals to discuss after Milan secured a 4-1 win over Lecce on Monday night. I'll be going through our impressive front four, the player ratings, and what I perceived as real disrespect for Stefano Pioli after the game. So let's kick things off to begin with having a deeper look at the front four and why I was so impressed with them. The first image essentially is taken from the build-up to Samu Castillejo's goal. Just really impressed with the energy, movement and dynamic of the front four that started. So we're talking about Castillejo, Bonaventura, Çalhanoğlu and Rebic. Yes, Ibrahimovic gives us a focal point up top. He gives us a physical presence in the box, something to aim at, a target man, someone to hold the ball up. Various strengths that are also crucial to the way we want to play football. But I was really impressed with these four and how they all posed their own direct threat and were also crucial in how we won the game, and that's obviously shown in the fact that three of them scores and Çalhanoğlu got 2 assists and was involved in the other 2 goals as well. But just looking at this image, just the way that everybody is playing a part in this entire move, there was really good build-up play going from the back all the way up the pitch. Castillejo, the goal scorer with possession, Çalhanoğlu's making a run into the channel, Rebic is dragging a defender with him into the box, vacating a huge amount of space for Bonaventura also, who is also closing in. And I think the theme and the important one of these certain situations is that the reason, and a big reason, why we were so effective and scored 4 goals, albeit against a poor Lecce side, was that we were getting men forward and into dangerous positions. We were giving players support, giving players something to work with, and that move ultimately ended in Castillejo putting the ball in the back of the net with a really good finish. The second image also proves the same point. You've got Rebic making a darting run into the box, all ready to come short as Theo Hernandez breaks forward. Theo actually took a shot in this situation, whereas I thought he could have rolled it across for Rebic to have a tap in. But you've got Castillejo at the back post, you've got Bonaventura then again in huge space on the edge of the box, and we're just looking a real threat every time we were breaking forward. The opening 35 minutes, I thought we were brilliant. Closing Lecce down, pressing high up the pitch, winning possession back really quickly, putting them under pressure, forcing mistakes, and then just generally looking pretty dangerous ourselves throughout. And I put that down to also really swift and clinical attacking moves. We saw that with the Castillejo goal. Really quickly moved up the pitch, didn't allow Lecce to settle into a system and their shape, and it resulted in a goal. And I think that was a real key point in the way we won the game. Looking at the next image, again, you've got Çalhanoğlu taking up the shot. Castillejo has made his run in from the right. You've got Rebic, who, albeit is standing in an offside position, is posing a threat in himself. And you've got Bonaventura, who eventually scores the goal on his toes, ready to follow the shot in. Again, 4 players, all in the box, or in and around the box. You've got Conte and Theo Hernandez in that image as well. And just the way that we got players forwards was a real crucial part as to why we actually finally managed to score multiple goals in the same game. I think before this we'd have managed 28 goals in 26 league games, so to score 4 in one game for only the 3rd time this season, I believe, it was a real sort of positive to take from it. And then finally the last image, brilliant counter-attack, very simple in many ways. Çalhanoğlu sees the run from Rebic, plays it through, and he goes on, shows great composure, great coolness to put it in the back of the net. But again, it's just that situation where we've got 3-on-3. Çalhanoğlu is ready to play the ball. You've got Castillejo ready to make the run out wide on the right, dragging his marker with him. So that effectively sets up a 2v2 situation. Çalhanoğlu doesn't waste any time. He's very decisive, plays the ball first time, and sends Rebic through on his way. I just think the way that the front four attacked the game and were so direct and so swift in the way that they moved, I think that was an absolutely fundamental reason as to why we managed to score 4 goals and get the win. So really impressed with the front four. I thought they were brilliant. In terms of the overall performance, like I said, I think for the first 35 minutes or so, I thought we were brilliant. We slipped just before half-time and just after half-time, which ultimately ended in them getting an equaliser. But struck back really quickly with Bonaventura, which was good to see, and then gradually turned the style on and put the game to bed, which was also a big positive considering we've faltered and dropped many points along the way this season. Just some of your thoughts after the game. Evo A, Is it just me, or has Kessie looked better in the last 2 games? I have to agree. I think he was really nice and tidy in possession. Didn't do anything too extravagant, but he did the simple things well. And obviously, you know what you're going to get from Kessie with his energy and his tenacity, offering that defensive coverage in front of the back line. So I think Kessie's done really, really well the last 2 games, linking up well with Benacer. Those two giving us the platform, allowing the front four to go out and win the game like they did on Monday night. So I'm enjoying the balance and the setup that we've got at the moment. Pioli's got players playing well and in their more comfortable positions, and I think he's finally settling into a system and formation that suits us. Fatih says Hakan was superb. Absolutely agree with that. Like I said, 2 assists, involved directly in 2 of the other goals as well. Finally, I think we've seen perhaps one of his best performances, if not the best, for Milan. So really impressed with Çalhanoğlu. M.A. Vauda says just 3 things going forward for this season. Consistency. Kaya has to recover quickly, and we are bad at right back. Agreed. Consistency has been the biggest problem. We need to string this together now with what is going to be a much more difficult challenge against Roma on Sunday. And we can sweep aside Lecce, who are battling relegation. It's positive. It's good to see. We all enjoyed the return of Serie A. But can we now follow that up with a win against Roma? That's going to be the big test. We need to win to close the gap. I just hope that we can pick up from this performance and produce when we're playing much more tougher opposition as well. Kaya has actually really surprised me. He's impressed me a lot. Gabbia looked really shaky when he came on, which was disappointing to see. But Kaya has done really, really well. The news today was that there's no ligament damage. MRI scan was carried out, so that's a real big positive. Suggestions that he might be fit for Roma, but at this stage, you're going to kind of err on the side of caution considering how busy the schedule is. Not entirely sure he's going to feature, but it'd be an absolute bonus if he does. And right back, yeah, Conti and Calabria still, neither of them have really convinced this season. Conti had a decent game, but again, you can raise question marks at times over his defending. So yeah, right back is still an area that we need to improve and address this summer. AC Milan Balkan fans said their man of the match was Hakan and the flop of the match was Gabbia. Like I said, can't disagree with that at all. I thought Çalhanoğlu was superb. He got the MVP award from Milan after the game. And Gabbia, really disappointing. I hope it was just a case of a lack of playing time, coming into the circumstances of the game, coming on for Kaya when he got injured, lacking that bit of sharpness, that kind of stepping up to the tempo of the game. I'm hoping that's what it was rather than a big kind of blip for him. But fingers crossed he can put that behind him and show a bit more of what we saw before the lockdown. In terms of the player ratings, I gave Donnarumma a 6 out of 10. I thought he had a really quiet night, beaten by a well-taken penalty. Not much you could do with that. But I was impressed with his distribution. I thought it was really sharp. We've seen him make mistakes this season, but on this occasion I thought he was really, really sharp with his passing out from the back. Right foot, left foot. That was one positive that I noticed from him. Andrea Conti, Simon Kaya, Romagnoli and Theo Hernandez all get a 6. You could argue that Kaya and Romagnoli perhaps could get bumped up to a 6.5 or a 7 even, but I thought all 4 were solid. Like I said, Conti had his moments where he looked a bit shaky defensively, but he grew into the game, got an assist for Leao's goal, and showed his quality going forward. So I've given him a 6. Kaya and Romagnoli, solid pretty much throughout the game. I thought they were very, very good, both on and off the ball. Theo lacking a bit of sharpness again, a bit of fitness, maybe perhaps not quite as effective getting forward as he usually is. But nonetheless, a positive return, and I'm sure we'll see more from him in the coming games. Both Kessie and Benacer get a 6.5 from me. I've already spoken about Kessie. I think he put in a real shift in the midfield, offering us something in both phases of the game, which is really important, and I was pleased to see him string that performance together. Benacer just looked comfortable, cruised through most of the game in the second half, so difficult to really kind of bump him up any higher than that, but impressive from him again, and he just gives us a solid platform, like I said, in conjunction with Kessie, to allow the front four to go out and win the game and not have to do a great deal amount of defensive work, even though all 4 of them actually did in the end. Castillejo gets a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a brilliant finish for his goal. as always, you know what you're going to get from him as well. He showed a superb work ethic in terms of his tireless pressing, defensive work, tracking back. I thought it proved his importance to their team. He gave us a lift in the final third. He kind of sets the tempo for the rest of the team, I feel, with his pressing and his energy. And there was often cases where he was pressing the left back of Lecce, and a knock-on effect of that is Çalhanoğlu, Bonaventura or Rebic closing down the next man up. So to kind of suffocate Lecce, and it all started with Castillejo in my opinion. So I was really impressed with him. I thought he had a great game, and it's good to see him back. Bonaventura gets a 6.5 on hand to score a crucial goal to get us back in the lead after Lecce's equaliser. I thought he just showed his intelligence again on and off the ball, played really well in that attacking four, as I showed earlier, and just on his toes and took advantage of the situation and grabbed a goal. So important performance, and that ability to kind of float into various positions to be a threat just showed that he could still produce. So yeah, 6.5 for him. Çalhanoğlu gets a 7.5, borderline 8 almost, just for the pure fact that he was so decisive. Involved in all 4 goals in some form, 2 direct assists. Just a really, really, really good performance from Çalhanoğlu. Gets plenty of stick, we know that, and at times it's justified. Not consistent enough, not decisive enough, and we expect more and want more. And on this occasion, though, I think he deserves credit for a really, really good performance. So credit to him. Rebic gets a 7. Took his goal brilliantly. Raced up the pitch, pretty much sprinted the whole length of the pitch, settled himself, composed himself, and found the back of the net. I think that's now 7 Serie A goals for the season. So brilliant from him. A little bit of pressure on him after his red card at Juventus, whether or not he could actually play as the lone frontman. Could he be effective not only in terms of scoring goals but also bringing others into play and linking up with others? I thought he ticked all the boxes. Brilliant work ethic as well, similar to Castillejo and the other 2 attacking players. Just constantly tracking back, putting pressure on Lecce. Certainly deserves to keep his place as a starter next week at the weekends. And then we'll have to wait and see when Ibrahimovic comes back, whether or not he'll be shifted back out to the left, or if he does continue to impress, whether or not he may just keep hold of that position and keep Ibrahimovic out of the team. In terms of substitutes, only 3 of them kind of had enough time on the pitch to really get a rating. I've given Gabbia a 5.5. As I mentioned, not a great outing for him. Struggled with the pace and the tempo of the game. Again, like I said, I'm going to put that down to a lack of playing time and kind of just being shoved into that situation, not starting the game and kind of having to get up to speed. Gave away a soft penalty, both in terms of his contribution to the situation, but I thought it was a pretty harsh decision. But he got also dragged out of position quite a lot, which was disappointing to see. So he's got a lot to work on and to look back on. Rafael Leao gets a 6 out of 10. I still think he looked a little lazy off the ball, I'm not going to lie. He definitely burst into life whenever he got the ball, whether that was holding off his man and bursting forward or directly running in a 1v1 situation. But just that lack of overall effort that we saw from Rebic and the other attacking players, you could just see he was still jogging around the pitch, just kind of waiting for the ball to come to him to get involved. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He is not at that stage of his career, and he's not proven enough to be able to justify being like that and having that attitude. You need to see more from him on and off the ball. And Pioli, again, even Pioli himself said after the game that he still wants to see more from Leao. But to his credit, took his goal really well. Great header, got in the right position, put it away, and that is what you were looking for, an impact off the bench, and he delivered. So credit for him for the goal. Do give him props for that. But still, I'm looking for something, just that little bit of a change in attitude in terms of his work ethic and what he's offering the team as a whole. And Salamakers gets a 6 as well. Just a good shift, provides some fresh legs for the last 20 minutes. So I thought he played an important role to kind of see out the win. So yeah, just a couple of other talking points. Çalhanoğlu just gets a big mention from me. As I said, he got the MVP award from Milan after the game for his performance. 2 assists. Just that ability to kind of float in the final third. He popped up on the left, right, in more central areas. I think Pioli has struck it golden with the way that he's handled him. I think he's a much better player since Pioli was appointed. Again, the inconsistency is a problem. Can he now deliver against Roma on Sunday? That's the big question. We need him to step up in the big games as well. But just taking this game in isolation, like I said, he gets a lot of stick, lots of criticism, but when he does play well, he deserves the credit, and on this occasion it was due. So hats off to Çalhanoğlu. I thought he played really, really well. And then finally, the last talking point was just the disrespect that I feel that goes towards Pioli. Yet again, after the game yesterday, he was asked about Ralf Rangnick, and in my opinion, I just don't see why that's relevant in terms of asking him questions, and I feel as though it's unfair on Pioli to be asking those questions. Then you've got the list of targets, this so-called list of targets that Rangnick is compiling, even though he hasn't even been appointed or got the job himself yet, and yet there's a new name, a new target every single day being added to this shortlist. Just disappointing overall with the whole situation in terms of the disrespect and the attitude towards Pioli, who's still in the job, who's still doing a very good job at that. I think I've got a lot of newfound respect for him for what he's done since he came to Milan. And I just don't like the way that his job and his future is up for discussion. And to ask him directly after a 4-1 win about Rangnick was just a little bit uncalled for, in my opinion anyway. At least maybe some might just think that it is what it is, and he dealt with it pretty well. But for me, I just think it was unnecessary. But as I said, credit to him. I think he's staying focused. He's putting the team and the objectives first, which is all important. And you know, I personally, fingers crossed as well, that he manages to qualify for Europe, and he can, if he does leave this summer, a big if at this point, then he can sign off in a successful way and say that it was job done in terms of getting us into Europe at least, even though top 4 looks like it might be a little while off. That sort of sentiment was echoed by many of you on Twitter. Borry Keynes, Borry Olademi, I agree, very disrespectful. Also not a fan of hiring Ralph. Hope I'm wrong, but I suspect we'll have another Gianpaolo on our hands. For me, better to bring Ralph on as a director or something like that. That makes more sense to me than throwing someone in with no Serie A experience. I agreed with Borry. I think it's very, very true. I've been on record and said myself on MilanTalk.com that I'm all up for a Rangnick revolution. But the issue that I've got is that Pioli is still in the job and he's being asked about being replaced and losing his job. That's uncalled for. Whether it's Gazidis coming out and dismissing it and saying we're not discussing it until the end of the season, so don't ask questions, or confirming Rangnick's arriving. Pioli knows what he's got to do. He's got a 2-month window to get the job done and then he's gone. Some sort of clarity, I feel, is better than nothing at all. But I agree with Borry that director role would be good for Rangnick, but as a coach, or even both, which has been touted as well, I'm not particularly a fan of that. Brad at Spidey0816, even though I'm wanting Rangnick, I do believe it's disrespectful to hound Pioli like they are, and I also think the lists are complete BS. Again, 100% agreed. That sort of talking point shouldn't be something that has to be asked of Pioli. It's completely unfair, and the list is just grows every single day. And maybe Rangnick is sitting in Germany somewhere and he's learning Italian and he's picking out targets and he's getting everything sorted because he knows he's arriving in July, August. But for me, unless he's been sharing his Google Docs with journalists up and down Italy, in Germany, unless somebody's privy to this so-called shortlist that he's compiling, I'm just a little bit kind of fed up and tired at this point of not only listening and reading the speculation that he's arriving, which has not been confirmed yet, but now on top of that, also the fact that he's signing about 20 players. So all of it's a bit of a mess in my opinion, but like I said, let Pioli get on with the job and fingers crossed he gets the job done. And then if there's changes, we can talk about that when the season is actually over. Right guys, that's a wrap on this pod. Thank you for all your comments as usual, and thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, share the video if you do enjoy listening to the pod. Follow on Facebook and Twitter at MilanTalk1. Check out loads more reaction and more talking points and opinion on MilanTalk.com. But until Sunday, after the game against Roma, Forza Milan.